Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Indy Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Tallman, and with me today, once again, are Rosie Calvert with our brokerage and Kelsay Bolden, who is our Director of Resident Relations. Welcome back to the show, you two.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so it's hot out there. Like, I went out, I'm a very early riser. And I went out about 5-ish this morning, let my dogs out, and it's like, it's not bad at 5:15 or whatever it was. But then I went back out like about 11 or 10:30, let's call it, and it was like, whoa. So it's really hot here. How are your summers going? Kelsay, I'll start with you.
Yeah. Also, I think it's supposed to be 102 or feel like 102 today.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And worse tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
But,
woohoo.
Yeah.
Summer is going really well. We have, we've got kiddos, so they're enjoying their time out of school, and we're working on getting them, transitioned back into the school year here soon. But we've just been enjoying it. We went to the fair recently, which is always one of our favorite summer activities. The state fair hasn't started yet, but we go to the little county fair by us, and it's always a good time.
Yeah. Rosie?
Oh, I'm enjoying it except for the blistering weather. It's super hot and humid, and some days my hair looks like I'm Tina Turner. It's big and full, and other days it's just like you just walked out into the swamplands. It's awful. So, but I'm enjoying my summer immensely. I've already gone and visited Tennessee once, and I plan to do so again here in the coming weeks. I'm really excited. Just the sunshine, it's beautiful, and my dogs are loving it. Got a nice garden going. Everything's wonderful and peachy.
Cool.
Yes.
Well, I brought you on here again. I'm sure people have read the headline by now on the podcast, but to talk about Q2, this is a quarterly thing we've been doing just to kind of give everyone, our listeners, a recap of the leasing market, of the sales market, and you two are obviously highly qualified to do that. So let's get into it. Kelsay, as head of our leasing, what stood out most in Q2 for you?
Yeah, Q2 was a little slower than what we were expecting to see. We usually see that jump right in May and June. However, I don't want to be doom and gloom because we had quite the pickup for July, which we usually start to see that slow down a little bit more when July hits. But we actually had this conversation yesterday. I think because school is starting a little bit later, people were holding off on their home searches. So Q2 itself was a little bit slower, but we expect to see some of that being made up here in Q3.
Yeah, it was, I didn't know that because schools historically, in the last several years anyway, started at the end of July. So we always felt this rush of people that would come into our system and want to secure housing by July 1st so they could establish residency in whatever school system they wanted their children to go to. And when June was so slow, I'm like, wow, what is happening? Well, I was unaware that, I'm sure you are aware, Kelsay, but I was unaware. I don't have kids in, elementary or high school anymore, or even college, that there's been a shift a little bit in the calendar. So schools now are starting in that first and even second week of August, which I think is why people were just probably enjoying June or like now, okay, it's July and I got to get serious because we had like a record-breaking week last week in terms of leases signed, and applications have been ferocious, for lack of a better term. And so I suspect we'll see really good activity throughout the rest of this month, which is a relief, I'm sure, in your department to say, yes, some of these homes that are getting a little age on them are now leasing. Homes that we're putting on the market are sometimes leasing immediately. Yeah. And so it's nice to see that engine revving right now and getting homes occupied and producing income. So, Rosie, what stood out to you most in Q2 on the housing side?
What stuck out most is how inconsistent it was. It was one week you were going crazy, you had tons of showings, offers, and then the next week it was just completely dead, very stagnant. The market was changing week by week. It was just chaos. It was people coming in, and offering full price and then just asking for concessions, and other people coming in and just saying, I'm not going to offer anything because I feel like you're overpriced. That's not something we've seen in the last few years. We've seen people at least submitting a lowball offer, if anything. And this past quarter, it was just, I'm going to pass. I'm not going to offer on it. It's just mind blowing to see that buyers are specifically wanting the best bang for their buck, and they're willing to hold out and wait to see a price reduction on a listing before even submitting a lower offer. And that's just not been what the case has been for the last 3 years. Some areas are performing better than others. Some areas are having multiple offers above listing. That's, your Fishers, your Hamilton County, and other areas that are, maybe a smaller market, such as Anderson, they're out there for 60 days and they're not getting any traction. Some of the less densely populated areas are sitting a little bit longer. And then other areas, days on market are up. Everything's up as far as that. And prices are trending down in some areas. So it's if you look at a statistics on a graph, it's spiking. It's very much that week by week by week. So,
yeah, a couple things come to mind. One, I was thinking about this quarter this morning and preparing for this, and kind of the word uneven came to mind. Like it felt, and not only from the housing market, but from leasing, because it's like if you saw the leasing graph, it would be just shark teeth. Is what it would look like. And so, it just seems like, I don't know. It's hard to. You think you got to figure it out, you don't. I mean, it's hard to predict. For years, I felt like pre-COVID, we were pretty good at knowing exactly when the spigot would turn on and when it would turn off. But there's just been a lot of different, interest rates going to almost nothing and then raising way up relative.
Yeah.
But now people are unsure about where they're going to go from here on out. And something else, Rosie, I've noticed, I think we've talked about this a little bit, and there's been some national press on this, is it seems like high-end homes are selling. And these are, the high-end homes are not investor-grade homes. Right. No one's going to buy most people would not buy an $800,000 house as a rental property, as a single-family rental property.
Right.
And even in my neighborhood, there have been plenty of really nice homes sell. But it's something interesting, and it's kind of hit me yesterday as we do our nightly walks. The two homes that are having the hardest time selling, and one's been on the market for a very long time, are very inexpensive homes. And I find that, now they're smaller, they need some work, right? Because I live in a very old neighborhood. But that's what's happening. If a home comes on the market at a big number, presumably, and I think it's been true from what I've seen, they're very nice and they sell. So people will pay a very high number for the right product. But it seems like if it's not like really nice or even have a big price tag on it, things are a little bit more difficult out there.
Oh, they are.
I find that interesting.
They are. You have to put perfection out there. Your product has to be the best that it can be when you're going out there, or you need to price it appropriately. Buyers are, they're paying interest rates that are high, and the feds have indicated they're not lowering them. So we've had a lot of investors who were sitting on the sidelines because of that. And then also retail buyers, when it's time to sell your investment property, they're asking for closing cost assistance. They're asking for those inspection and repairs. They're asking for you to pay their buyer agent commission completely. So they are willing to purchase something at market value, but a seller has to be willing to give them those concessions.
Yeah. We had an inspector on recently, and then I think you guys know Nick Giulioni. He's been on the podcast 2 or 3 times, and he sent me something last week, I think it was. Rosie, I don't think I've shared it with you. I should. But he's compiled all this data of inspection responses, and I think he had over 300 different responses. So it was a good sample. And I believe, if I'm misquoting him, I may have him on the podcast to talk about this because I think he's into some pretty interesting stuff here. But I think it was the median cost of an inspection response was more than $16,000.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that was just the median. Wow. He had some other benchmarks. I don't want to quote it because I know I'll probably mess it all up, but I believe that was the number. And so that tells you why deals fall apart at inspection.
Oh, yeah. Yes, we have seen So many mutual releases in quarter two. So
Yeah.
many.
And I think I'm sure you've seen some sticker shock inspection responses. And look, it could be a combination of deferred maintenance, right? That if you're not willing to go through and do the work on your home that needs to happen, and you don't need to like have it a home inspected, but like do a nice walkthrough, do some things in your house. Like walk through the house and look at it very critically and say, what do I need to do? Is there rotted wood, or are there windows that their thermoseals are broken? Has my HVAC been serviced recently? Is this light, all the light switches work? Things, just basic things that, are going to stand out. Do you see any mold, right? Mm-hmm. Obvious things that you should take care of. But so I think it's a combination of that. Maybe people aren't doing the work that they need to do to get the home ready. And then two, just the general rise in costs of doing things. Yeah. It just continues to go up and up and up. I had a contractor give me a bid on my home recently for what I thought was a super simple repair. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And he's like, are you aware how expensive things are? And I'm like, yeah, I thought I was up to date. I guess I'm a little behind. I guess from last week, I fell behind. But so yeah, I just think it's a combination of things that it's very expensive to do work to homes now. And it causes people to freak out and deals to collapse, which is, yes. I always say mutual releases, everybody loses on a mutual release. There's no winners in that, but
never get that time back.
That's right. Or your inspection money back, or, a combination of things there. So Kelsay, what's going on with rents? Steady? Where are you seeing rents tracking in quarter two?
Yeah, things are steady, which we have talked about this year. It's probably going to be that throughout the whole year. Quarter three, we tend to see more price drops, which is normal, 3 and 4. But yeah, things are really steady right now. We aren't seeing those major price increases year after year like we were seeing previously. What your resident was paying, last year, if they vacated, you're probably going to be seeing a similar rent amount or something a little bit lower. We've had this conversation a lot with our clients. If someone moved into your home in 2022 and you're getting a vacancy and you see our CMA, it might be a little bit of sticker shock to you because the rent prices are probably going to be a little bit lower than what they were in that time frame. But the good news is over the last, I would say, year, maybe 2 years, things aren't necessarily lowering. They're just staying very steady. Mm-hmm.
How much resistance are you getting to price reduction suggestions? Because we do, there are some management companies that will just say, hey, we're going to get your property rented. We'll let you know when it's rented. And it may not be for what the current price is. So some management companies just reduce until they get it rented. We do collaborate with our clients. Are you getting a lot of resistance, or is it just like, hey, whatever you think, let's just get it rented?
It's a mix. I would say that we do get resistance, and we understand why, because when it goes to the market, our clients are already getting a little bit of a lower rate than what they probably expected. And then it can feel disappointing when we're like, hey, we've done X, Y, and Z, but it's still not renting, so we need to do a price drop. Now, I think that there's a misconception that it's ideal for us to just lower the price just to get the home rented. Now, if the home isn't renting and not getting leads, the price is likely too high. We know that from our data and our experience, but it's not what we just want to go to. We try multiple things first before we will just automatically go to a price drop. So we're trying to work together with our clients and kind of get over that hump, because we understand the financial burdens, but also a vacancy will cost more to you than a price drop will.
Absolutely. We talk about that a lot. And yeah, I get it. I think there is a stereotype out there of property managers that says, well, the only thing you guys want to do is just reduce the price, right? It's like, no, we all have the same goal in mind, is to rent it for the highest rent possible, because the client's happier. We get more management fees based on that. So it is a model that we have incentive to get higher rents for our clients. And so, but at the end of the day, there's only a couple of major levers you can pull.
Right.
And price is one of them. And sometimes the market is the market's telling you something. It's like, well, there's no market, no one's seeing it. Yeah, that's the market yelling at you,
Right.
that something is wrong with your price because no one's even looking at it.
Yeah.
So as long as, we presumably done our job, got it out there, we have good pictures, all that good stuff, and you're still not getting traction on the listing, there's not a lot left to do other than reduce price, and that's kind of a bottom line business that way. So, all right, Rosie, tell us about the sales numbers.
Well, some areas are steady and are holding value and maybe even seeing a slight increase. And other areas, you're having to go a little bit further down. Your prices are trending down to get somebody to write an offer on that property. But it's probably the condition and location that's affecting that. For the first time in many, many years, location has become a big factor. Those that are in a good location that maybe don't have the perfect and cosmetic things and maybe are lacking some functionality, but are in a good location, are performing better than those that have been completely turned over, have a very functional layout, a fenced backyard, all those wonderful things that first-time home buyers or move-up families are looking for. They just aren't performing as well because there's not as many close amenities and just the school district, those things. I mean, that's very typical. But as far as, the median sales price for all of Central Indiana has gone up about 5%. We're looking at $275,000 on average. Some areas are much higher than that. Your Hamilton County areas, your sleepy suburbs with those A++ schools, those are trending higher than that. Some of the areas that we're seeing that are trending down or are staying stable are ones that we were hoping would be on the rise. So some of these borderlines B, C class areas that you were expecting to have some sort of similar step forwards like Fountain Square has had in the last 15 years, 20 years, they just haven't moved that needle as much. So you're not seeing much appreciation in those areas, whereas compared to something outside of the 465 loop you are. So for example, like Little Flowers not performing as we would have hoped it would have appreciated in the last year or so, but places like Brownsburg and Greenfield are, just because they have more space and have newer homes and more functionality to them. We are still seeing a ton of listings out there, but I would say that for every listing, there's probably or for every buyer, there's 3 or 4 listings that will fit their needs. So they're being very selective when it comes to that.
So I want to circle back to something you said a little bit ago. I thought it was interesting. You said location is now important. And it's funny because, the 3 rules of real estate were always the 3 most important things was location, location, location. And I think it's an interesting point you made, because I would argue that back in COVID, when there was this frenzy, that people sacrificed location. Maybe it still was maybe their most important thing, but they were willing to sacrifice that and move forward on a more marginal area or a more marginal home or whatever. But now I think you're right. People have more choices. They're more selective, and they're going to go back to that core value of buying, which is this is where I want to be. So help me find something here. I think that's an interesting point. So I think, if I look at the market here, I pulled some numbers just on Indianapolis single family, because that's, to me, has always been my guiding light when I want to look at how are things performing in Indy. I go to single family and I go to Marion County, and median sales price there is $265,000. It's up 3.8%. Not bad year over year. That's kind of what we normally see. That's if you went back and started back to 2000 and went all the way to COVID. That's probably what you would see, like a 3 to 4%. That's kind of what we were for years. So feels like we're kind of back there. Days on market are up 60%, but again, it's a difference between 10 and 16. Yeah. So homes are still selling in Marion County, single families, in a little over 2 weeks, and people are getting 98.6% of list price. But then on the other side of it, active inventory is up 16% year over year. So homes are, and then month supply is up. So currently we have 2.2 months of supply in the market. But so overall, it feels kind of balanced, maybe is the right way, that buyers have a little more power. Maybe if you look at it on balance, there's a little more, they're tipping the scale a little more in their favor. Yep. But I would say it's feels like a pretty decent market out there, whether you're buying or selling. It's not skewed greatly any one way, which I think makes it for a better market.
Yeah, the way I like to explain it, it's like a tug of war at a summer camp, and you've got 4 or 5 sellers on one side, but then you've got 2 big bodybuilder buyers on the other side.
Yeah.
So they just have a little bit more strength in what they're looking for. So it's still a competitive fight. But again, if you want to sell your property, you're going to have to give those concessions in this market. You're going to have to play ball. You can't just go out there and throw anything out there.
Yeah, we learned that because I think I discussed, Scott and I sold a home, and I think you had told me, it's like you have to bake in, you're going to pay commission to the buyer's agent, and you're going to pay closing costs. Just bake it into your numbers. Yep. And those are big numbers when you just start like, okay, I want to start at X, and I just know even if I get full list, I want to pay these probably in most cases. So it does change your numbers. You got, like you said, do your homework. Get that net proceeds sheet done. So you go in, you just don't want to be disappointed, which is a function of not knowing. You just want to make sure your expectations are there and you understand what you're getting into. So, all right, Kelsay, if you want to list a home for rent right now, what are we telling clients? I mean, this week or last week, maybe, we're a little surprised by, but like what are we telling clients now as we get deeper into quarter 3 of the year?
Yeah, as expected, again, this is not a shock to us. Days on market will increase just slightly. Again, like you said, taking out the July that has surprised us in a positive way, we typically see days on market trend up a little bit. Now, we're still right around that 30-day mark, which sounds like a long time, but it really isn't compared to what we've seen previously. So our average is much lower than 30 days right now, but in the slower times, you can expect to see 30 days, a little bit more than that as we move into quarter 3 and 4.
Yeah. How about you, Rose? I think you already talked a little bit about it, but if you do all our listings, and when clients come to you, and what kind of expectations are you setting right now?
I mean, as much as I am a selling agent, I'm a person who wants to list properties for sale and get them sold for people. There are times when I've told someone, wait till 2027. Let your tenant stay for another year, just because maybe there will be an ease. Buyers' expectations of, what concessions they're going to get from a seller will ease a little bit, and also sellers can sit back and kind of see what's happening out there. But, if you're going to sell and you have a great location and you've got it in perfection, then do it. Go for it. I mean, your net proceeds are high. They're going to be wonderful. The appreciation from COVID is still there. I don't think you're going to see anything catastrophic or dramatic happen to them.
Right.
Our area, Central Indiana, we're known for appreciation. We see 4 to 6% most of the time year over year. So we're healthy, we're stable, we're good. So I really think that if you wanted to sell, just have the right mentality and be prepared to, if you're not going to do all the bells and whistles and put in that LVP flooring and do complete painting, and be prepared to pay the closing costs and pay their buyer agent, then you're going to have a harder time. And I would expect your days on market to be closer to 60 or more. If you're willing to understand that those concessions are going to be needed because buyers are paying close to 7% interest rates, then you're going to have a lot better experience and you're going to be happy with how things play out. I say it, I feel like it's a broken record, but if I had a crystal ball and could tell everybody what exactly to do and how to do it, I probably wouldn't be sitting here and be doing something else. But just based on what I've seen, I think we're going to have a good 3rd and 4th quarter. We tend to see July slow down for us just because people are on vacation. America turned 250 years old, so a lot of people are traveling and seeing the United States. We got the World Cup, so just people are all around. There's less activity from buyers right now than I would like to see. As conversely, we're Kelsay and the rental side are seeing a lot of activity. So I think we'll see a big push. I think we're going to see a lot more investors entering our market because everybody's getting used to that 6.75 prime rate and saying, okay, if I'm going to pull the trigger, I better do it now. So there's going to be some good opportunities in the 3rd and 4th quarter for sure for a buyer and for a seller.
Yeah. Well, that's good stuff. So Kelsay, talk about briefly renewals. We talk about renewals every time we're on this podcast, and about this particular podcast on the quarterly review. But renewals have been amazing. It feels like they're continuing. Just give us your thoughts on our renewal rates right now.
Yeah. Well, exactly what you said. They're amazing. And I will say that the last few years and few months, we've seen just astronomical renewal rates. 60%, 70%, as high as in the mid 80% renewal rates, which is amazing. Yeah. Our renewal rates are still very high. We are getting more notices to vacate because people are comfortable enough to start looking in the housing market. Most of our notice to vacates are because people are buying a house or because they're moving out of state, out of the area that they're in for a job. But we had a 51% renewal rate in June, which, even though that's not what we had seen before, as far as like the market that goes, that is a amazing number to have. So we're still really excited about our renewal rates. We're seeing a lot of people continue to stay put. And kind of to echo what Rosie was saying, for people selling, I think people are on our end waiting until like that 2027 timeframe to actually buy. So they're staying put for another year or two and then seeing what the housing market's doing.
Yeah. All right, Rosie, tell us where people out there looking to buy actively. And I know you have a lot of these calls, but where's a good place to buy right now?
Well, I would say it probably depends on what you're looking for. I always like to highlight our appreciation in our market just because it is steady and strong. The national average is about 2%. So we have very healthy appreciation. That's going to make up for some maybe that cash flow that you're lacking. Things are, cash flowing just a little bit, maybe a few hundred a month, maybe a few thousand a year, or you're breaking even. But in the long run, the appreciation, especially if you're doing the long-term hold, you're going to see some good equity there that's going to make you feel happy when you go to sell the property down the road. So right now I'm seeing opportunities because it is 2026. Something we saw in the late 90s, early 2000s was a lot of these vinyl village, these neighborhoods with small HOAs where they're just doing, sign maintenance and plowing the roads when it snows. Very small, but built in the 90s, early 2000s. They're all coming up to the age where the mechanicals in the roof are starting to need to be repaired, replaced. So you're seeing some good opportunities with a very functional layout. It's a neighborhood where they had 4 or 5 different model homes that you could pick out, and they didn't have all the fancy bells and whistles. It's very stock, if you will. We're seeing some good opportunities in certain areas where people are ready to move out of those. Either they're moving up because they're having more family, they're growing, or they're downsizing, whatever the case may be. But we've seen several of them go for the 3-bedroom, 2 baths for $230,000 with excellent rents. Kelsay can tell you that those probably rent quicker than anything, just because they are so functional. During COVID, everybody stared at the same 4 walls and we're going crazy. That's why I think we saw some of the movement happening during COVID. So now people are being more conscientious of when they are selecting a place to stay for a period of time. And I think that anybody who comes to our market and buys one of those properties that has that functional layout that gives everybody the space that they want and the room to spread out in the home, you're going to have great success. And because of where the market is, you're seeing some concessions from sellers towards those mechanicals that are old or that roof that needs to be replaced, and you can do some add value there because there's cosmetics that need to be done to it. Maybe it's still got that builder grade product in there in the kitchen or the bathrooms, and you can do some upgrading there that really does add value and just bolsters that appreciation there too. We are also seeing some great opportunities with new construction in our market. We've got multifamily new construction. We've seen duplexes up to 4 units. And the builders have lenders that are giving great incentives. So instead of you paying, 7%, 8% as an investor, you could potentially lock in a 4 to 5% interest rate. So a brand new property that's, again, not supposed to have any major defects or major issues going to come up for 20 years, you're getting a good interest rate that's lower than the prime. And Typically, those new constructions involves the area being built up as well. So you're going to have those tenants who want to live in those areas and have the nice, clean product. You're going to pay those higher end rents. If you are looking in actual downtown Indianapolis, there's a big IU hospital being built.
Yeah.
That's going to be opening soon, and it is driving so much activity in that area to where you can see some appreciation there. You might find something that's got a lot of deferred maintenance that you can put some money into that's just gonna change it, and a lot of people are gonna want to be in that area. Also, any place that you're seeing commercial thriving, as far as the amenities that are out there for dining, those types of things, maybe not necessarily, big corporations moving to those areas, but they're wanting things to be nice and they're wanting things to be clean. They're seeing that from that commercial company coming here. Obviously, anything outside the 465 loop, if you want to play it safe, you want to set it, forget it, anything outside of that 465 loop that's in a sleepy suburban is going to be wonderful, I feel.
Yeah.
Indianapolis is just growing. We're becoming more dense in Indianapolis. While some people like living downtown and want that walkability, there's others that want to be outside of it and have those A++ schools with their kids in there, and you're going to see longer term leases typically outside of the 465 loop. So, that's the beautiful thing about our market. It's a refuge market. So whatever you want at whatever price point, as long as it's realistic, we're going to find it for you.
Yeah. Well, it's good stuff. I think it's safe to say our market's doing just fine. Things are chugging along. And Kelsay, like you mentioned, really happy to see all this leasing activity happening in July. It's nice to see, and something we need to think about going forward, because it's always, we've always said, hey, we're going to slow down in July, but things seem to be going well. So, hey, I appreciate you two coming on, sharing your knowledge. It's been a fun 30 minutes or so.
Absolutely. Yep. Love to share it.
Yeah. We hope everyone has picked up some information that will help them in their investing. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another podcast. Until next time, thank you so much for listening, and please stay invested in your investment.